Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Comet Sprint 17 demo review. This is the last sprint of the spring-summer work cycle. This is wrapping up the full deposit life cycle in a production context. And I am pretty excited to pass the recording over to Tamsin to show the work that was completed. And I think that our viewers will be very impressed, at minimum, somewhat entertained to see what's happening here. So Tamsin, take it away.
Thanks, Gabriella. I want to start by saying that this team has really been extremely productive this work cycle. This is definitely the most productive that I've seen this team be in the time that we've worked together, and it's really been super incredible. We've made a ton of progress on a bunch of different components of our architecture, which I've deposited into a Comet for us to look at. I'm like now previewing the big win for this most recent sprint, which is this viewer that I have a lot more to say about. But I'm going to start by going back over to the dashboard, and we're going to deposit some new objects. So we've seen this deposit process before, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again for us because I want to call out some things that are happening now when this deposit happens. So let's do a demo deposit. I'm going to grab fixture file. So this is an image. There we go. I'm going to make it public because that's important to the piece of the demo that I want to show right now. And I'm going to give it some metadata. We demoed last sprint that this metadata is configurable. I want to go ahead and make that. So I've gone ahead and added some metadata. You can see that that shows up here. That was work that we finished last sprint. This is now going to take a second. This is the first time that this message that says your files are being processed in the background, this is always displayed. It's never been true quite so much in the past. But what's happening now is that some background jobs are running that are going to do a number of things. Most importantly, for our purposes, they're going to run characterization on this file. So they're going to inspect what the file is, not just what the file metadata says it is, and do some work. When that work is finished, Comet's going to know how to display this object, and we're just going to chill out for a second until that happens. I might take a second and let's do this is as good a time as any to show sidekick. So are we running a background job? I expect these derivative jobs to be failing. That seems right. Let's browse away and give it a second. We just wait for these processes to run. So what's going to happen when Comet realizes that it can display this content as an image is that we're going to get a viewer like this one. What's powering this viewer is an image server called Cantaloupe that we deployed in the last couple of sprints. And this is doing a couple of things. We did make this public, yes. Okay, good. This is doing a couple of things. It's finding the content that we've uploaded to Comet from the Comet file store. And it's checking that that I have authorization to view it. And it's really doing that in kind of a rudimentary way now, which is why we need to make it public to have this viewer. But our hope is that we'll have a mechanism soon for making the authorization to view this object something that's passed through from the discovery endpoint. So importantly, this viewer is available to Comet, but the backing service that makes this whole interface possible is this Cantaloupe image server. And our notion is that this is a public service that many different image viewers can use from many different applications. So it's not just Comet, but it's also, we expect this is the integration endpoint for Starlight. We expect that we'll have an interest in using standalone IIIF tooling like Mirador with this content. I'm going to see whether this came up. It will be slightly embarrassing if it doesn't, but that'll be okay. Not so far. Okay. I felt confident in that because I did this one that you see right before we came on, but I guess we'll see whether we can figure out what's going on with that. So anyway, the image viewer is able to display the content and also display its structure. So I added to this object before we started a couple of components. One, so this is the file that you see that's attached directly to the object. And then I added a Orange Empire architecture diagram and a geodata workflow diagram that I want us to look at in a little bit. But this is a draw up of how the image is actually getting served out. And you can see even though this image is directly attached to a sub object, which has its own viewer, it's available in the contents of this larger object as well. And that's something that we're super excited about because it presents a real use case for the kinds of structure that we've paid close attention to providing. Okay, so that's IIIF. It's really impressive how much we've gotten done there. The authorization bit is especially cool, and I think it's something that we'll refine on as we go. I want to go ahead and publish the collection that this is in to show the other major piece of external system integration that we've done, which is, so if I publish this collection and then I browse back to Surfliner architecture, we'll see that I now have a list of discovery links. The only discovery link that we're showing right now, I also have an unpublish button, which we can click in a little bit. The only discovery links that we have right now are Tidewater, which is the OAI endpoint. We might want to talk about whether we want to display the code name here or whether that can stay inside. our heads. But if I click through there, then I can see a representation of this object in the OAI endpoint. The workflow for publishing to OAI is a little bit collection oriented because of the collection set orientation that OAI itself has. But I'll say a little bit more about our plans for other discovery systems and publishing to them in just a moment. If I want to edit some fields, let's add another creator. The Surfliner team. I don't know who else is. Let's just. I'm feel silly about adding actual people because now I feel like I have to add everyone. So here's some fake people. And Moomin. Moomin is for everybody who contributed to this, but didn't get their name listed just then. So if I update the metadata, you can see I've got lots of contributors coming through here. And if I refresh, then I get this metadata here. What this is showing is that this metadata is integrated end to end. So what's happening when I deploy a Comet and a Tidewater next to each other is that they read the same metadata configuration. Tidewater reads mappings out of the metadata configuration file and provides this OAI mapping, this OAI DC mapping from the configured metadata that's powering Comet. So this is a point where these two things are tightly integrated. And as you can see, when I update the one, the other follows. There is some representation of that in our Tidewater diagram. There's a little consumer script that reads events and pulls the new metadata out of a metadata API. So that's really neat. I want to emphasize that though we love OAI PMH and consider it a real feature that we have an OAI PMH endpoint that we're deploying alongside Comet, our primary goal with this was to trial this part of the integration flow so that we could do this again for Shoreline. And our integration plans for Starlight are slightly different because they're highly keyed off the IIIF image server, but also for possible new discovery platforms that will interact in the same way where we need metadata updates to be near real time and happening in a tight integration. Okay, so that's that. I want to go ahead and push the unpublish button to show that I can actually remove things from the OAI endpoint. You'll see that it's no longer linked down here, and I hope that this comes through. Yeah, so ID does not exist is a reasonable response for that request now that that object doesn't exist anymore. So it's important that there's a distinction between this object being in principle viewable by the public and it being available in any given endpoint. So it's part of our presumed workflow that sometimes objects will be available in one discovery system, but not another, and that those need to be something that can be managed independently. I want to do a brief interlude for collections, and actually I probably want to go back this way, and let's do collection 3. This is a collection with no objects in it. That's great. I love that, because I plan to delete it. Collection 3 is gone. How about that? I'm going to do the same thing for collection 2, but first I'm going to pull this object. This one's about to have an embarrassingly incorrect title. This object is in multiple collections. If I delete one of the collections that it's in, the object sticks around and is just no longer in that collection. The other objects in that collection stick around as well. Deleting a collection or a top level component in general doesn't delete a lower object. I can also delete the objects. So we did a little work on the collection front to make, we did a little work on the collection front to make these collection to make the kinds of interactions that you see here work well together. So the various things on this page now all work, where before they were a little bit spotty. So that's a side work that we did. Okay, I want to do a rehash of our arc minting process. I want to check in on this object. Oh, that's really funny. I have no idea why that's not. Oh, because the file didn't get attached. No wonder. Let's attach a file to this one. Somehow I managed not to upload this image correctly. That explains it. There's an attached file. And there's the characterized job. This is much more like what I wanted to see. So when this is done, we should see the viewer. I feel a little bit better about that now. There you go. See, I promise it works. Zoom and pan is pretty spotty for this image because, as you can see, the image is very low quality. But we can zoom as far as it will go. The viewer has some cool features like this. Yay, there we go. And I do, now that this works, I do want to quickly demo the component object situation. Very helpful titles. And why not just the same image again? Because that's silly enough. So this one should also come through in just a moment. Let's see. Yeah, a new characterized job. Great. let's let this one go. Okay, so now if I go back to that top level object, we should see both the original and the component and be able to browse between them. Yay! Funny thumbnail problem here, but it's okay. It's probably just like throwing off the image server that it's so low quality. We'll have to figure out what the story is with this. But anyway, that's that. I want to go ahead and push this one through its workflow just to get us back on the workflow situation. So you'll recall that these workflows are configurable. This one's set up so that when I approve the object, it mints an arc. Boom, we got an arc. That's fantastic. Workflow processes are per object, so we won't see an arc for the component objects unless we approve them as well. There's an arc for that one. This is the fake, the arc test API endpoint that we're hitting. Okay, or the easy ID test API endpoint that we're hitting. So that's arcs again. I want to talk at this point about the largest piece of work that we had hoped that we'd get done this work cycle that we didn't quite get there on. And that's to do this same integration that we saw with OAI, with the geodata service. We did a couple of important things to move that forward this sprint. One of those is that we met to create this workflow diagram. And as I just mentioned, the workflows are configurable. So, so what process any given object goes through depends on what project it's deposited to. So if I make a new, sorry, this says admin set because that's in the database and needs to be fixed in a migration. But if I make a new project, test project for demo, look, that's an even shorter description in the title with almost the same words. Then this project can now get a workflow assigned to it. The custom Surfliner 1 step is the one that we've been showing you, but I can assign other workflows here, and I can change who the participants that can manage this project are and who can deposit to it, and who can bypass access to view objects in the collection, which is maybe a feature that we don't want. But anyway, I can then deposit into that project, and we'll do the puppies again. And we'll keep this one private so that we don't bother with image viewing. And oh well, it's handy that the steps in the next workflow or in this workflow are the same. I should have picked a different one. But anyway, what the process that we go through here is depends on what object or what project we've deposited to. So we drew up this workflow diagram to implement as another workflow targeted for a geodata project where we expect, or one or more geodata projects where we expect to deposit the geodata objects through. Importantly, so we do expect to still mint ARCs near the end of this process. We have a process in mind for manually managing derivatives. So we do hope to be able to automatically generate WGS84 projections for the objects deposited through the geodata project. But we also want the curators to be able to manage those files manually and upload a different projection if they prefer. Probably not a different projection, but a different file for WGS84, I should be clear. So those can be managed manually as a piece of work that we wanted to be able to do, but didn't get to. And once those objects go in, we want to be able to do a per object workflow triggered publish to Shoreline. So that involves generating a downloadable zip for the Shoreline users of the original content, pushing the WGS84 into the GeoServer platform, and then a very similar metadata process to what we do with Tidewater, where the metadata from the Comet gets ingested by the discovery application. So we have to be a little bit of that.
Kimson, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Your audio just got garbled.
So I think where I left things was that we are hoping to do more work on this, possibly in the off cycle, but we do feel we got the pieces to be able to do this work done, just we didn't quite get to having this workflow implemented and having a couple of pieces that we're still missing ready to go for it. So this is work that we had hoped to be getting through this sprint, I think maybe somewhat ambitiously, but is just like maybe a week or two away from done. Related to this geodata work as well, a metadata profile got worked on this sprint. I think that's going to be merged today, I would hope. It seems very promising that the metadata config for the geodata process is hardening up. So that's that configurable metadata that we've seen in other places, and the integration between the various applications that make up the Surfliner architecture, we should be able to reproduce there. And the other piece that we did work on is the batch upload process. So a diagram that I have but didn't upload, maybe I should upload it as well, is that there's some complex relationships between the objects in the geodata files. So we're doing something slightly different than is sort of the default with the derivatives being in different file sets. So we worked on a process for uploading that, which I'm not going to try to demo, but I will show did actually get in here. I think we have a little bit more work to do to make sure that once I ingest geodata, that it's in a form that we can actually handle and manage and move through that workflow. So that's work, again, that we had hoped to get to, but didn't quite get there on. We're having conversations about how best to continue, because I think both campuses really want to be able to see this platform as part of their production geodata workflow, and being able to ingest geodata and have it show up in the Shoreline platform is, I think, really a big want for both groups. So that's the main piece of work that we felt we had hoped to do, but couldn't quite get there on. I think that's it for my demo. I want to say again that that I'm just super proud of the work that the team did this sprint. This here with these blurry puppies is, I think, the coolest thing that we've been able to show so far. It's, you know, it's fairly low key to be able to say, okay, we have a zoom and pan in the application. That's a nice feature, but it's not such an amazing thing. But the way that we've done that is really important, because it shows a capability to integrate between platforms in a way that is really a key goal for us in Surfliner. I think that's it for me. Do you have any last thoughts? Gabriella, does anybody have questions?
No, I just want to echo what you said, that I am too very excited and very proud of all the work that was accomplished, not just in this sprint, but it was also, yeah, you were actually sprinting to the very end to show this wonderful stuff that just happened. Real quick, I wanted to know about the manifest for the IIIF. How's that happening, and is it on the fly, or is it a part of the background process?
So yeah, so the manifests are served out by Comet, and if I go, so I guess I should say what a manifest is, for starters. So the images for this are served out by the IIIF image server, the Cantaloupe server, which is sitting here. But in order to power this like content aware approach, and if you see this more information, there's not actually any metadata in this more information, but I'll come back to that. Like metadata about the thing that we're seeing is served out by a JSON document, which Comet serves, as you can also see in the diagram. And what that looks like is this. So that's super helpful. You have lots of info, more info than you know what to do with. Importantly, the images fun. That one should, there's something wrong, like that's displaying. So I don't know, it must be a permissions thing. I don't know. Anyway, the image server is displaying that, so it must be working right. But these images are included as metadata here, and the manifest shows how they should be arranged in this viewer context. And other types of viewers display the same data in similar or different ways, as the case may be. That manifest is generated on the fly. So there's no, like I said, there's no metadata actually in the manifest right now. That's a ticket that we have open as part of our Starlight integration dreams. But once the metadata is in the manifest, you should see that changing the metadata immediately. There's no delay or like complicated event-driven process. It's just pulled directly from the data in the index, I think, in this case. If I add more components, let's add the puppies again. Oop, that's the staging area. Let's add the puppies again. Make them public. Then not this one. And it's probably going to take until it's probably going to take until the puppies get up. That's an interesting. That's the second time that I could have swore that I successfully uploaded the puppies and didn't have it come through. But let's get that in. So once that characterization runs, then we should see the puppies. Oh yeah, even before the characterization runs, we get the puppies here, because that manifest is in fact generated on the fly. So what that just showed, I guess, is that somewhere down here we've now got image 0, image 1, image 2, and image 3 instead of just 0, 1, and 2. So yeah, that's sort of a long answer to your question, Gabriella, but the answer is Comet's serving them out, and it's doing it live from its data. There is a caching layer to help make it not take very long, but we haven't noticed any problems with the manifest generation at this point. I know that there's been some community work where structured objects like this with hundreds of pages, let's say, I know that Trinity College Dublin serves out the Book of Kells with a viewer like this. And that's powered by the caching layer, because in their architecture, displaying like 500 images, just the process of generating the manifest is a little bit cumbersome and slow.
Thanks, Tamsin. Do we have Chrissy? Chrissy, you're going to schedule the end of cycle update for stakeholders meeting?
Correct. Jessica and I are working on that.
Okay, stay tuned then. All right, Tamsin and all, thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.